Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, still with NBA champ Matt Barnes, Hall of Famer Jackie MacMullan. We wanted to take a deeper dive, guys, into the new look Lakers with that fabulous game we call Jump Ball Lakers Edition. All right, first, who will average more assists next season, Russ or LeBron? In each of the last 4 seasons, just a little background here, either Russ or LeBron have led the NBA in assists, but now they're teammates, Matt. So who's going to get it this next year?
I think it'll be LeBron only because he needs these younger guys who are younger than him to kind of carry the load throughout the season. You know, this is going to be a marathon for this team. I think they know it. Although most guys will defer to LeBron, I see LeBron leading this team in assists because he's going to need these guys throughout the regular season.
All right, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go Russ. You know, one thing we know about Russ, when he gets into the paint, he is good as anybody in the league is distributing the ball once he gets in there. Imagine how many times he's going to be in the paint and can dish it to Anthony Davis for a jam. I'm taking Russ. I think Russ wants to fit in, wants to make this work, and there's no better way to do that than to distribute dimes all over the floor.
Yeah, and he's talked about wanting to leave the impression that he's a good teammate here, and the idea that he's giving assists, dishing to his teammates, passing. I think that will be a big focus of his in the first month or two, just to establish himself with these Lakers. So I'm tipping into Jackie's side, of the fence. Next, I want to ask you guys about crunch time minutes. You think that the Lakers vets or their youth will end up being used more in crunch time? Because the Lakers did, of course, add several veterans. You've seen all the headlines and ages and graphs and charts. Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza. But they did also add some youth guys. The backcourt, Kendrick Nunn, Malik Monk was just a huge steal for them. They re-signed Talen Horton-Tucker, who, of course, they've invested a ton in over the years. So, Matt, when we get to the end of games, particularly in the playoffs, who do you think will get the bulk of the minutes, the older vets or the future?
It's going to be depending on injury and then how the younger players play throughout the season. I mean, you know, as an older player, you understand it's not really about who starts the game, it's about who finishes the game. That's who the coach trusts the most. So, I mean, that's going to depend on a lot of injuries and then the development of these younger guys, which I think the younger guys are going to be called upon a lot this year because this team is a little older. Again, if this is the team they had 10 years ago, we'd be talking about this is one of the greatest teams ever put together. But this team is a little bit older. I'm not holding that against them. I just think it's going to take their youth is going to get a good run and a great experience during the regular season, and hopefully that'll bode well for them in the playoffs.
Well, so here's the question. If the youth gets that good run, can they be consistent? Because you know how it is with LeBron. When it gets down to crunch time, he needs to look over at you and say, I believe in you and I trust you. And my instinct tells me that it's going to be the vets to start. Now, maybe a guy like Malik Monk, whose three-point shooting went up to 40% this past season, you know, really got a hot hand with Charlotte. If he can prove you can do that to LeBron, LeBron's going to tell Frank Vogel, I want him in the game.
Right.
But I think in the early going, at least, it's gonna start out being those vets.
Yep.
All right, one last one. You guys talked about Brooklyn being the favorite over in the Eastern Conference in the last segment, so let's take it a step further. More likely to make the NBA Finals, the Lakers or the Nets, because they're the favorites in their respective conferences, according to Caesars Sportsbook. But those conferences are very different paths to an NBA Final. So, Jackie, for you, which team would be more likely to make it to the championship round?
So my instincts tells me I want to say the Lakers because I think they'll have an easier path to the NBA Finals out of the West than the Nets would in the East. But I just got to say this. The Nets, completely healthy, are one of the most talented teams I think we will ever see. So I guess I'm not going away from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like this question. These are my two that I picked to be in the finals, but I agree with you, Jackie. You know, they're one long toenail away from going to the finals and possibly winning the finals with just KD healthy.
Right.
This team, you know, we're talking about there's no dynasty. This team can be the next dynasty if they're able to stay healthy. Although I think, you know, losing someone like Jeff Green doesn't sound like a big deal, but he was an integral part of that team. So hopefully they can find someone who replaces his energy and what he brought to the team. But I think this team is going to have a chip on their shoulder this year after what happened last year with injuries and all this chitter-chatter about what's going on. So I'm picking the Nets as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, that toenail, right? That Kevin Durant foot in the second round, that will be remembered for a long time. It's interesting, though, Jackie, that even part of your logic was the Lakers might have an easier path. That kind of answers the question from the previous segment about how strong the East is this year versus the West, because we just wouldn't have said easier path in the West in previous recent seasons. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.